the intimate relationships that are enacted within global chains of commodification. So we're going to be talking about the movement of people from households to households, and what some of the implications of that are. We're talking basically around the major theme of the globalization and commodification of care and procreation. So we have two major themes that we're going to be articulating today. One is looking at the development of care chains, looking at migrant workers and their families, of their countries, of their communities, and how they move to families in other parts of the world. We are going to be looking at two major aspects of the commodification of care and procreation. One is going to be the care chains. We're going to start off by discussing macro level issues of policy, of organization, of the possibilities of organization and compliance. We are then going to move into looking at household relationships, as were talked about at the end of the previous presentation, this irony and the tensions between caregivers in their own families and then leaving their families and being intimate caregivers in other parts of the world. We're then going to switch to looking at procreative chains. We're going to be looking at women's reproductive capacities as commodities of consumption on global markets. So we will be looking specifically at the international adoption market and then at the international surrogacy and gamete market, the market for biological procreation and the global division of labor between suppliers and consumers. I would appreciate, as the other panelists have indicated, that you refer to the biographies. I would, however, like to just introduce you to Toby Volkman, who is Director of Policy Initiatives and the Secretary for the Luce Foundation. She was previously Director of Special Projects at the Ford Foundation. She also served as the Deputy Provost at the New School and is the author and editor of a fabulously interesting book called The Cultures of Transnational Adoptions. So I would ask our speakers please to observe the 10-minute limit if possible, and then we will open the floor for questions and discussions.
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Tang. I'm the General Secretary of the International Domestic Workers Federation. My organization is very new. It was just formed 1 year and 4 months ago. And now we have 55 domestic workers organizations as our affiliates from many countries of the world. And among the 55 domestic workers organizations, 12 of them represent migrant domestic workers, and some more have started to organize, include migrant domestic workers also in their organizations. Despite economic downturn, etc., but increasingly women are migrating for work. As domestic and care work. Of the estimated 55 million domestic workers of the world, half of them are migrant domestic workers. And my presentation largely based on the stories from my constituencies. When I'm with them, I always hear these issues, irrespective where they are from and also irrespective where they go to work. So these issues are very similar. Of course, in some countries, we all know that in the Middle East, in the Gulf, the situations are extreme. There is absolutely no rights for domestic workers. But I can tell you that even in very metropolitan places like Hong Kong, where I come from, still abuses are rampant. And I always keep reminding people that the issues, the challenges faced by migrant domestic workers are really everywhere, and actions are needed everywhere by all the governments. So the very hot issues and very critical nowadays is that increasingly the number is getting more and more, but also increasingly more and more of these migrant domestic workers migrate through irregular channels. So that means more and more of them become undocumented, and then they fall into victims of human trafficking, and they face increased exploitation, and also and even become forced laborers. And why irregular channels? First is largely these migrant domestic workers go through private recruiters, private employment agencies, for various reasons. And one of them is even being mandated by governments. For example, in Indonesia, there's a law which stipulates that all migrant domestic workers who go abroad to work must go through employment agencies. So legally, domestic workers have no choice, but have to be in the hands and manipulated by the private recruiters and become commodities for higher profits. And then at the same time, earlier session you heard that there's a disinvestment in healthcare, disinvestment in social protection, etc. So government explicitly or implicitly encourage hiring, encourage the people to use migrant domestic workers. But the problem is, on the other hand, they totally ignore the rights and protection of this group of workers. So it's really treating this group of workers as machines. So they can come and fill the gap. They provide the services which their countries very much need, but they don't want to invest in it. But then they find this group of women to fill the gap, and they don't care their lives at all. And increasingly these domestic workers come to work on short-term contracts. So there's no way for them to gain citizenship or to have to establish any status in the societies. And okay, I think I have to go very fast. So coming from a place, Hong Kong, I strongly believe that a lot more need to be done by the governments in the country of destination of these migrant domestic workers. It's not only because these are the places where the domestic workers are actually working at. They need the protection, the security, the rights there, but also because this government actually have a more bargaining power. I mean, they have more possibility to do more. Unfortunately, that is not happening. They are just using these workers as machines. So our proposal is to the country, to the government of the country of destination, is really they have to formulate concrete regulations, laws to protect the rights and obligation of these migrant domestic workers, and to monitor the compliance. and impose penalties. This we don't hear of very much. And to the government of country of origin, they are also gaining a lot because of the remittances. I have actually heard from a government, where he's from Bangladesh. We were in a meeting talking about how to protect their people who go away to work. But then during a coffee break, he said, I'm so happy because under my service, so many have gone to work last year, and so much money have been earned by my country, and he was very proud of that. And but he did not care about how his domestic workers and women, when working outside, are being exploited and having a lot of rights problems. So of course, people nowadays ask about MOUs and also proposed MOUs being signed between the two governments. But so far we have not seen how this MOU are working effectively to protect the rights of domestic workers. Even though increasingly MOU have been signed, I think one reason is because all these MOU are being signed in dark rooms. The domestic workers, have no knowledge about what is there, and so forget about implementation. I mean, even though if this MOU are really good, but forget about implementation because we don't know what is there. So responses. So these are the demands to the government. But of course, the most important and the vital, the key factor to improve the situation, to change this is really organizing of migrant domestic workers, so that they will not continue to remain visible, silent, and actually, if we do investigate and go to the grassroots, you will be surprised to find that actually a lot of migrants, especially women, are organized. But we just don't know. But they are organized along nationality lines, along ethnic lines, or cultural, religious circles. And most of them are organized because that is for survival sake. That is only when they are together, they network, then they can help each other, to introduce jobs and other things when they are sick or they need money, etc. Or other information in the society. They don't go to the people of that countries, but they prefer to look for this among themselves. And if I may tell you our affiliates who are organizing migrant domestic workers, I can see that more than half of them actually start by building alliances with this informal migrant domestic workers group, and that is how we work with them, and then slowly they emerge as trade unions or rights-based migrant workers organizations, and then some of them are being included in the existing unions of the countries, and most of them are in Europe. So what I want to say, it is possible to organize these workers, and the optimism is that more and more know that they have rights. Especially now we have the ILO Convention 189 for domestic workers. They know that they have rights. They are workers, and they just have to stand up and claim this. And my organization is very much into supporting this organizing effort, because we believe unless migrant domestic workers are organized, if they will continue to be exploited. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon. Is it working? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Monica Koning. I work for the International Trade Union Confederation, and we represent, for example, 70 million women workers around the world. My position is that of policy advisor, and I work for the Equality Department, and I've been very closely involved with domestic workers, and particularly the ILO Convention 189. And Elizabeth and I know each other very well, so we are almost weekly in touch with each other to see what the next steps we can do to secure rights and protections for domestic workers, including migrant domestic workers. Before I go into more detail, I just want to say that domestic workers are workers. This was the big issue for many decades and years. Because they were not recognized as workers, they were excluded from labor laws. And so that means no rights. And as a result, they faced exploitation, they were paid poor or no wage.